Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Travis, aka Mr. Cornerstone,
and Monay, aka confidently_free.
From the Becoming One podcast. The podcast will begin shortly, but first we have a quick message for you about Anchor.
If you haven't already heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. They literally take away all of your excuses.
First of all, it's free, and who doesn't like free? The creation tools that Anchor supplies allow you to record and edit your podcast right on your phone or computer.
And after you're done recording and editing, Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
You can even make money from your podcast. Now, maybe you're listening to this like, well, I don't have 10,000 subscribers or followers. Well, guess what? Again, Anchor thought of that. There is no minimum listenership.
Anchor is literally everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, this is Confidently Free.
And Mr. Cornerstone.
And you are listening to another episode of
The Becoming One podcast. Close.
Yeah.
Almost one.
I just want to say welcome back to those of you who have been rocking with us and listening to us. And welcome for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time. Just want to let everyone know that we are still in the month of May, so we are still talking about motherhood.
Motherhood month. Motherhood
May. So, I'm just going to go ahead and hit you with the quote of the day, because that's my thing. I enjoy quotes, so I'm going to hit you with one. So this quote says, "Being a mother is learning about strengths you didn't know you had in dealing with fears you never knew existed." That is by Linda Wooten. Wooten. Wooten.
Sorry, Linda, if she's butchering your name.
I tried my best. But
so how you feel about that?
That is,
you agree?
I do agree. When I think of strength, I think of labor and delivery. When I think of fears, I just think of all of the concerns that I always have for the kids, or the little small things that I say on a daily basis, like, be careful, get off of that, you're gonna fall. Like, thinking of them getting hurt, like, wasn't really concerned about a child's injury or potential injury before I had kids. And now it's like, oh, be careful, oh, look out, oh, don't do that. So yeah, I think it's pretty accurate.
I can see that.
So if you're tuning in, this is episode 8, and today we are actually going to be talking about and navigating through my birth stories. All 3 of my kids, their birth stories are significantly different, night and day, literally, for all of them. So I think I probably want to start with TJ's first. TJ is 5. His birth was what I would consider to be the most traumatic. With his birth, it actually was a emergency C-section. So I think I'm just going to start off at the beginning. When I first started going to the doctor after I found out I was pregnant with TJ, the particular hospital that we went to, I didn't think that there was anything strange or odd about it. I think it was the one that was closest to our house. It was literally right down the street from where we were staying. And so I actually decided to go with a midwife.
That was the same hospital I was born at, too.
Yeah, so, we thinking everything's great,
Right.
I'm not going to name the hospital. I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, don't do it.
But, I decided I wanted to go with a midwife. And this particular pregnancy, I decided to do what they call centering. So if you've never heard of it, or if they don't offer it where you're located, centering is where a handful of women who are all due around the same time do their prenatal appointments together. And so it was, I think, me and maybe 6 or 7 other women. We would go to our appointments. We would individually meet with the midwife, and she would weigh us, take our blood pressure, all that good jazz, listen to the baby on the fetal Doppler. And then we would all sit together and just talk about different things that might happen or occur throughout pregnancy. So I think one appointment was like how to do, CPR on an infant. Another one was kind of what to expect in the labor and delivery ward of the hospital, things like that. Throughout that particular pregnancy, I was working out twice a week with the trainer. At that point, I was not plant-based. I was still, having a normal diet, eating chicken and beef and all the other stuff. And But my blood pressure was high. I didn't think anything of it until it continued to be high. I was just kind of confused as to why it was elevated, because I'm like, well, I'm working out. Isn't exercise supposed to lower your blood pressure? Didn't think anything of it, but I was just kind of confused by that. As time continued to go on, you know, you do the usual labs and stuff with pregnancy. They draw your blood. You have to give urine samples, that kind of stuff. And at one point, I had a UTI, but, you know, again, when you're pregnant, your immune system is a little bit lower so that your body basically doesn't attack the foreign, you know, thing that's inside of it, which is the baby. So I'm thinking, okay, whatever. Time went on, and then I ended up with a kidney infection. Now, if you've never had a kidney infection, it is excruciating pain. If I remember correctly, it was in the morning. And Travis, do you remember that day, that morning?
No, not really.
I remember I was in the living room just like crying. And I don't know if I called 911 or if I called the hospital, or I don't remember. I just remember there was conversation of if I wanted an ambulance, and I'm like, well, I live right up the street from the hospital, so
It's probably the hospital. I don't think
I'd probably call the on-call nurse or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I talked to somebody. So we ended up going to the hospital.
Because I remember saying, you know, we're not trying to pay that ambulance price for half a mile.
Right. We literally lived right up the street. Like, I'm not over exaggerating. But anyway, so we get to the hospital, go to the ER room, and they check us in. And yeah, I ended up with a kidney infection, which I didn't understand what that was all about. But if you've never had it, it literally felt like daggers. The pain was just so excruciating. It was the most uncomfortable thing ever. So again, you know, notifying my midwife, letting her know everything that's going on. And at this point, throughout the pregnancy, as we're doing all these labs and, you know, I got to continue to go back and forth giving urine samples, there continued to be protein in my urine. And so if you don't know these symptoms, if you don't know what they mean, you don't know the right questions to ask. And for us being first-time parents, this is one of those things that you don't know. Because
I mean, like, before you go into, like, the whole course of becoming a parent, you're not looking up, like, oh, what does it mean to have this during pregnancy? You're not thinking about it.
You are directly, like, married to somebody, right, or you yourself are in the medical field. There are things that, because, I mean, you don't talk about your labs with people unless it's something like dire and you about to, like, get admitted to the hospital, but outside of that, you don't know what's concerning and what's not. You know, if when something is off, but you like you just said, you don't know what to ask. So, yeah, every time I would go do a lab, you know, there was something wrong with the drop. There was, you know, protein still in my urine. So my midwife is aware of all of this. She sees there's protein continuously in my urine. She knew I had the kidney infection. She knew my blood pressure was high. So for anyone who is in the medical field and works with pregnant women, you already know that these are significant red flags. But again, we don't know anything because, you know, the midwife is aware.
Just kind of trusting people.
Right. That was the biggest thing. I would think that as my midwife, a midwife at that, if you knew something was significantly wrong, in my mind, you would have said something. So at this point, it's January. Mind you, my due date was February 13th, I think. So it's the end of January, and I go to my prenatal appointment. You know, nothing out of the ordinary. I had plans that night. I was going to take all the baby clothes, and I was going to wash them with the baby detergent. You know, I was going to finish packing the bag and put all the baby clothes in it. So we go to the appointment, and, you know, she's checking my blood pressure and all that stuff, and I guess she had gotten some lab results back. And towards the end of the appointment, she was like, well, I'm just going to, you know, I think you need to go over to labor and delivery so that they can do some tests. Again, I'm not thinking anything of it. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I remember we got out of the car after we parked in the parking ramp. We got out of the car, and Travis was like, I think today's the day. I think something's going to happen. And I looked at him. I'm like, dude, she literally said we coming over here for some tests. That's it. That's all. I got plans. We're going home.
But in my mind, I'm like, you said it as the labor and delivery for what? Y'all could do tests wherever. That's what I was thinking.
She told me tests, so I took her word for it. So we go in, and I don't even remember what they had me do. I don't remember what they had me do. I don't know if they like ran another lab or something. But I remember they put us in a room and somebody came back and basically was like, yeah, we're going to have to admit you. And I don't know if they just pulled my old labs.
I think they just got the ones from the midwife because I don't think they had you do anything.
Okay. I don't remember. I just remember they were like, yeah, we're going to have to admit you.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I'm like, so I can't go home and get my stuff? Because at this point, there was no hospital bag in the car.
Right.
I don't even think the car seat had been installed at that point. Cause
nothing was.
Now, mind you, the date of my appointment was January 26th. We had just had and that was a Monday. We had just had the baby shower that previous weekend, like Saturday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday is the appointment, and then I get admitted Monday night.
I don't even think we had the crib yet because we had
just had
the baby shower.
None of the baby clothes, none of the stuff we had gotten was clean, nothing.
Right.
So I'm looking like, okay, you want to admit me. Due date's February 13th. I'm not happy, but Travis is like, ooh, it's go time. All right, cool, excited. So I'm annoyed. So
you big mad.
I was super big mad. Had a whole cape and everything. So they put us in a room and they were like, well, we're gonna go ahead and induce you. Okay, sure. Now at this point they're telling me what they're going to do. Now I know, and this is not a slight or slamming hospitals or nurses or doctors or anyone who works in the, with maternity and the fetal medicine. It's not a slight or slam to anybody. However, I just want to say I didn't understand the significance or importance of asking questions or advocating for myself. So they were like, well, we're going to go ahead and have to induce you. So they did that. And at this point, having contractions, not, anything crazy. Travis even went and got me some food because I was hungry. So I was like, hey, can you? Yes, I went and got this again. I'm not plant-based at that point. So he went and got me some chicken from Arby's. I was content. I'm like, cool.
You had like chicken fingers. You had the curly fries.
I had a whole meal.
I want to say they still had like that orange sickle.
Oh no, I didn't drink that. I don't drink orange sickle. That's not my flavor of choice. It probably was for you.
Okay.
But so I'm just eating out. It was funny to me because a lot of times, and when you're in a hospital, they discourage you from eating when you're in labor. And some people will say that that's to basically kind of prep you for surgery if you have to have it. Because when you go in for surgery, you could aspirate if you get put under. If you're with a general anesthesia, you could aspirate. And so that's why they kind of discourage people from eating when they're in labor.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I thought they just didn't want to get pooped off.
No, you could aspirate. Like you could literally choke on it and yeah. So fast forward to the next morning. I'm laboring. And when you had, I'm sorry, I skipped the part. So at this point, it's the nighttime. They basically told me that and I'm trying to, talk to the doctor. I'm like, hey, this is my birth plan. This is what I'm going to do. This man literally
we were asking for the midwife and stuff.
Didn't even look at the paper. At that point, they had told me that I was now considered high risk because of because I had preeclampsia, a term that I had not heard until I was admitted to the hospital and induced. I had a significant issue with that because I would think that my midwife, who understood that I had high blood pressure and protein in my urine, and I was also significantly swollen. Like my feet and ankles were like, they were done. They were huge. And
always.
At no point did she utter the words preeclampsia to me. And in my mind, I thought to myself, wow, it probably would have been nice to be told what my condition was versus me just seeing I have symptoms of something or I have all these ailments and I don't know what they mean. I can't put them together and come up with a solution or an answer.
Did you know what preeclampsia was when he said it?
I had never even heard of it before.
Okay. Neither have I.
Which I don't think is uncommon to have not heard of it before. It's actually pretty prevalent. If you're looking at the grand scheme of pregnant women, it's not uncommon for an African American woman to have preeclampsia. I think we actually are 3 or 4 times more likely to have preeclampsia than a Caucasian woman. But anywho, so I'm like, okay, whatever. So fast forward to the next morning. They wouldn't allow me to get out of the bed. I don't think I made that point. So I couldn't get up and walk out any of the contractions, which, normally that's helpful to move with the contractions. I couldn't do that. They basically wouldn't let me get out of bed to go to the bathroom. They offered me either a catheter or a bedpan. So I couldn't get up to do anything. So I was very upset about that. So then, it's morning time. And they're like, well, let's break your water to try to get things going. Now, they broke my water, and I was dilated to a 6. So to go from probably 8 p.m. the night before to about 8 a.m. the next day, maybe even 7 a.m. the next day, to be at a 6, that's not that bad, because some people are in labor for 36 hours. So break my water, contractions pick up, I'm laying there uncomfortable, but I can't get up, whatever. So a doctor who I've never seen, never met, I don't even remember if he introduced himself. He came in and was like, well, we're just going to go ahead and do an emergency C-section while you and the baby are still okay. Now, I do want to add that when I was having contractions after my water had been broken, with every contraction, my son's heart rate was dipping, which to the untrained ear sounds significantly concerning. But I do want to point out, when you're having a contraction, the uterus is literally squeezing itself. It's a muscle. It's contracting, and then it goes back and it expands and it relaxes. So if you are contracting a muscle onto a baby, it's not uncommon, or is it a significant cause for concern, if you will, for somebody to want to suddenly change plans just because the heart rate's dipping. It's a contraction. That's gonna happen. So at that point, as soon as he said that,
but you got to set the scene for the doctors.
I'm sorry, I forgot to say this.
You move a little too fast, because we were just sitting in the room.
Yeah, chilling
in the room.
It wasn't just this doctor. There were multiple people who came into this room.
12 people came in, not just come in, rushed into the room. They didn't just open the door and walk in calmly. They literally had 12 people rush into the room and start unplugging stuff, getting you ready to be moved. The doctor's standing in the middle of the room, looking back and forth between the two of us. We're just gonna go ahead and we need to do this emergency C-section. We need to keep both of them healthy, and then they're like, we need you to sign this paper.
Now so the doctor's talking to him, because at this point I'm bursting into tears. I can't even talk. And I remember my mom being there, and she said, Monay, she's trying to calm me down. I give her props for that. She said, Monay, it's okay. All 3 of you, your brother and your sister, were all born C-section. You guys were fine, and everything's gonna be okay. And I appreciated her for saying that. The atmosphere and environment and the outcome was still not what I wanted.
Right.
And it took me a while to accept the fact that it was okay for me to feel that, and I didn't have to be okay with what was happening, because I wasn't okay with what was happening. So I didn't have to try and justify it in my mind to try to rationalize why this situation was okay. It was not an okay situation for me. So they're talking to him. I'm crying. Nobody came in and said anything to me before that doctor came in about you could be having a C-section. If the night before someone had said, hey, this is what we're looking at, there was protein in your urine, that's concerning. Your blood pressure's still high, that's concerning. There's a dip with your son's heart rate every time you have a contraction, that's concerning. If these things continue, then you might be looking at a C-section. Because at that point, had someone said that to me, I could have then made the choice or decision for myself to say, okay, you know what? Please let me have an epidural if I could be potentially facing a C-section. Because at this point, I had had no pain medication, just in labor.
Right, just running through stuff.
So no one had said anything to me. So now I'm feeling lots of different emotions, and I don't even have time to process them, because between the time that the doctor had come in and said that and the time that they had wheeled me into the operating room, it was less than a 5-minute window. No over exaggeration. As they were, talking to Travis and having him, sign whatever they had him sign, he had left the room, or left my line of sight at least, and came back, and he was dressed in these blue, like blue smocks or like with the whatever it is that they have when they go into surgery. He had the little outfit on with the face mask. Or did you have a face mask on?
Yeah, I had everything.
He had everything on. So to me, I'm like, okay, well,
the hairnet and all.
Yeah, because at that point, what did they tell you?
They said that they were going to take you in, prep you, and then they'd be back to get me in 2 minutes.
So as they're wheeling me...
So you went down to the hallway to the right.
Yes.
They took me to the left and immediately put me in a room.
So as they're wheeling me down... Now, mind you, nobody communicated that to me, okay? They're wheeling me out of the room towards the operating room. I see him go one way, and they take me another way. So I'm trying to talk through contractions at 6 centimeters dilated. I'm like, where is he going? Where are they taking him? No one answered me. They take me into the operating room, put me on the table. I'm still having contractions at this point. And obviously they're not far apart because I'm remembering the intensity of them. And it was less than a 5-minute window. So they were getting a little bit close. So I'm having a contraction. I'm on the table. At this point, they had put an oxygen mask on my face. So I moved the mask so I can breathe through my contraction. And someone shoved the mask back on my face and said, no, you need to keep that on. And then at some point, I just kind of fell into an unconscious state because they had given me whatever anesthesia that they needed to give me. So after they put you in the room, what do you remember happening next? Do you know how long you were in there?
I mean, I was in the room for like 20 minutes. They said 2, and I'm sitting there because I'm walking out the hallway. And I can go into this more during June when we talk about fatherhood. But, you know, I'm basically just walking back and forth trying to figure out where they took you, what's going on. And I don't want to run down the hallway, but I'm trying to figure it out. So then I'm in the room, and I'm thinking maybe they just took more time than what was thought to get you ready, right? I'm still waiting for them to come and get me, and then the next thing I know, they're saying, okay, well, she's recovering, and we're going to take you to see your son. And that's it.
So, guys, guess what I remember next? I woke up in the tiniest room that resembled a closet. Not even kidding. This room
basically was.
This room was so small. I don't know how long I was there. I don't know. I remember someone taking me, because I remember whoever it was who came into the room, I said, where are they? Where are they at? I don't know why I would have thought that they knew who they were, but I was like disoriented. And so they wheeled me out of this little closet thing and took me to my room, I guess. And I remember when I got to the room, I asked Travis, I asked him, where was my mom at? And he was like, oh, well, they already left. So here I am, a new mom, fresh out of surgery. My mother was one of the last people that I saw that was a familiar face before I went in there. So she had been there. And I woke up and, got back to my room, and she had seen my baby and left. My dad had seen my baby and left. My mother and father-in-law had met my son, seen my baby, and had left. Now, my son was born in January, so at this point it's flu season. No one besides immediate siblings or grandparents were allowed in the hospital. So I had to process this. I had to process the fact that I was the last person, in my mind anyway, this is how I said, I'm the last person to meet my baby. I have no idea what my baby looks like. I don't know how long my baby has been born, and what did I miss? I didn't see his face when he came out. I didn't hear his first cry. I didn't get skin to skin. And I remember asking Travis before they wheeled me away to please. I was crying at the point. I was like, can you do some skin to skin with him, please? He was like, I'll do it, Monay. But yeah, I hadn't, because I don't remember the time frame between when he was born and when I actually got to meet him. I have no idea how old he was, how many hours he had been born, nothing. So fast forward, we were in the hospital. So he's born on a Tuesday. We got discharged on Friday, and he was little, quote unquote. He was a little baby. He was 4 pounds and 10 ounces or something like that. one of the side effects of preeclampsia that I did not know, because of the high blood pressure, the blood flow to the baby is restricted, and all the nutrients that the baby is getting from whatever it is I eat also get restricted. So a lot of times people will suggest that it's that restriction that can contribute to a low birth weight in the baby. So he was a small little thing, but we got discharged on the same day. We both came home Friday, and I remember. So my birthday was Saturday.
What you mean I think you need to explain that. You said we got discharged on the same day, but we were in the hospital for like a week.
Okay. So I don't really remember much from the first day, but when. I don't know how it is in hospitals now, but apparently, like, all hospitals, for the most part, have gotten away from nurseries. So, at this point, though, there was at least somewhere for him to go because he had to be under one of those little heat lamp thingies. His blood sugar at that point wasn't really regulating itself. And so he was in there, and then I remember they brought him to me, and they was like, oh, the baby's hungry. So I would go and try to feed him, but I don't know what I'm doing. People are just expecting me to breastfeed this brand new baby. I don't know how to do that. So a lactation consultant came in a couple times. But this lactation consultant, she literally would just take my boob and pop it in his mouth and be like, there you go. There was no, okay, these are the different ways you can hold your baby when you nurse. This is something you could do if you're having issues or problems. Nope, just literally would pick up my boob, pick up his head, put them together, and leave. That wasn't the greatest experience in the world because it wasn't helpful for me for when I left the hospital. I ended up using this tool. It's like a tube, and it connects to this little bottle where you put the milk in. And I had to finger feed him. So I would literally put the tube on my finger and then just put my finger in his mouth while the milk's coming out. So I was pumping in the hospital because I couldn't figure out breastfeeding. In the hospital, it's very cold. They moved me from a very nice recovery room from right after I got out of surgery, and then they put us in this room. It was cold and it was dark, and the bathroom, it was a big open area. So you had the sink and then an open area, and it was the toilet, and then an open area, and right next to that was like a shower head and like the drain on the floor. There was no separation between anything. Felt like a jail cell to me. Is that accurate? Is that fair to say?
Are you referring to the room or the first closet right now?
The room.
I don't think it was just like a jail cell.
Not the first room we were in. The one they moved us in after we were good.
Yeah, I don't feel like that was a jail cell. It was
compared
pretty big.
To that second hospital.
Well, I mean, but you gotta think of like my experience with places I've been living at too. So.
Oh, okay. Never mind. But anywho, so yeah, it was annoying because in hospitals, after you have a baby, they tell you to get some rest, but literally you have people coming in every hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, poking and prodding you, taking your blood pressure, checking on the baby, literally doing everything they can to get all the information they can on you and your stats and all that good jazz, but there's no way to sleep. So and then because I had a C-section, they wanted to make sure I didn't clot. I had to get shots in my stomach, so that wasn't fun. And let me see, am I missing or skipping anything? So Friday rolls around, and at that point he was eating. His blood sugar had been regulated. He was good to go. Because before his blood sugar had regulated, at one point they had said, well, we might have to keep him a little longer, but if we do, then we'll let you guys do what's called rooming in. Which basically means you could stay at the hospital, but you're not considered a patient. So, like, basically it was saying, we're not going to feed you, but you can stay here in the room with your baby. And that's about it. But he got together and he was fine. And then we both ended up getting discharged Friday. Did I skip anything? Did I leave anything out that I'm not thinking about?
I mean, it's your story, so it's what...
Right, but you were there, so I might be forgetting something that's like...
I'll talk about my stuff another time.
So yeah, so we get home Friday, and
it's about mothers. This is Mother May.
I know.
Motherhood May.
Anywho, so I want to say it was Friday night.
The month of mothers.
Where we had some people come over, and by people I mean family. We didn't have like a bunch of friends coming over. These are like uncles and aunts. coming over to meet TJ for the first time, and I could not articulate why. But for some reason, having 5 people in the house in addition to us was so overwhelming for me. Like, I just started cleaning stuff. And I don't think I really do that too much now. I'm a little bit better about kind of trying to identify and deal with it. But I could not articulate what was wrong with me and why having 5 people over was overwhelming for me at that point. So I just started cleaning stuff. Now, mind you, I had an emergency C-section. If you have an emergency C-section, you're supposed to get somewhere and sit down. You're not supposed to be cleaning or doing laundry or any of those things, which is what I ended up doing. And so, I don't know. It was just really weird. And I didn't know how to, I guess, deal with that. And so I didn't know how my postpartum journey was going to be. But I know I just had a lot of anxiety and I was really overwhelmed and I just had a lot of different feelings. And I think for me, postpartum depression, so to speak, didn't really look like what I guess people normally think it is. I think I was just a little bit more on edge. I was a little bit angrier. I was a little bit more irritable, a little bit more easy to be frustrated. And so I remember going back to a follow-up appointment for after I had TJ. And I was the first out of all the women in the centering group to have my baby. I was just kind of talking about my experience and everything that had happened. And I remember sitting there saying to my midwife, I said, well, this happened and that happened. And, I ended up with an emergency C-section. And I said, but at least, the important thing is the baby's okay. And that's when she said to me, well, no, that's not the only or the most important thing. You went through this too. How you felt and what you experienced mattered too. And I don't think I took that into consideration until she actually had said that to me. That me not being okay and all of these things happening and feeling insignificant and not heard and dismissed, all of that mattered. And once she said that to me, I really took it to heart in terms of how I wanted future births to be. And so that leads me into my second birth story with my middle child, Atara. So at this point, TJ is, I want to say he's 3. He was almost 3 years old when we found out we were pregnant with Atara. And so I decided to not even attempt to go back to the same hospital because the first experience was completely traumatic, like just traumatic for me. So switched doctor's offices, all that stuff. And the doctor that I ended up seeing is actually the doctor who was my follow-up after I had TJ. So I was glad I at least saw a familiar face. So when you have a C-section and you want to do a natural birth, they take a lot of things into account. And for whatever reason, I'm not really sure why, but being African American immediately puts you at a greater risk for trying to have a natural birth after a cesarean section, or what a lot of people call VBAC, which is vaginal birth after cesarean. Again, I don't know why that's so, why that's a big thing, but something about being African American apparently just puts you at a greater risk. And so I was talking to him about wanting to do, a natural birth and, Can
I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Because I know you're jumping from story to story, but just to kind of reiterate it, we talked about it a little bit in before episodes about believing for your spouse and whatnot, and how that played a role in like the birth of Atara and such. But it took a lot to go from TJ, that birth, to a VBAC. Like that wasn't like just like an immediate jump. And most women nowadays, or I say nowadays because this is what, like, I'm a part of the nowadays, but I'm pretty sure it's been like that for a while. But most women are told after they've had a C-section that they can't have, a natural birth after that. So it took a lot to go from just speaking from my perspective of view, to go from having that C-section to the natural birth of Atara. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, that's definitely an accurate statement. And I don't know why people are still out here telling women that once you've had a C-section, all of your births need to be C-section. And I guess that, and I know, that had to have been the case at some point because my mom had 3 C-sections. One thing about when you are in labor and you don't get up and move, it will not help progress your labor. If anything, it probably will stall your labor. And so a lot of times when someone has had a C-section in the past, they will make you stay in the bed and put a fetal monitor on you, and you cannot get up and do all the things that you particularly would want to do, which is what ended up happening when I was in labor with Atara. So let me set the scene. The doctor had told us, your chances of having a successful, VBAC are 60%. I'm good with that. No worries. So after I met with him, all throughout my pregnancy, I met with midwives. At this particular hospital, you kind of just meet all of the midwives. You don't just see the same one every time, which is what I did the first go round. So I'm meeting all the different midwives because, you never know who's going to be on shift. So I thought, okay, well, this is a good idea to be able to meet everybody because I don't know who's actually going to be delivering my baby. And it's good to meet everybody because at least it'll be a familiar face. It won't be somebody I've never met or seen before. Everything was good. At this point, because of my previous history of high blood pressure, they recommended that I take low-dose aspirin. If you are pregnant, and you have issues with high blood pressure, talk to your provider, ask about it. That's what I did. It worked for me. It was something they suggested. I didn't have any issues. So my blood pressure was good throughout my second pregnancy. Didn't have any issues with protein. Didn't have any more kidney infections, anything like that. My second pregnancy was pretty much great. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. So, also, something that I did not do with TJ that I did when I was pregnant with Atara, I also went to go see the chiropractor. I literally saw the chiropractor throughout my entire pregnancy. And I want to say that it helped me a great deal, especially with my sciatic nerve pain. So just shameless plug. If you haven't gone to a chiropractor and gotten prenatal adjustments, they're pretty great. But anyway, so setting the scene. I think I was 39 weeks and 3 days, and I had 39 weeks and 2 days. So it's a Friday. And the place that I was working at, there was a parent workshop that I had to go do on that Saturday. And I was, got home Friday and I was like, man, I'm tired. I don't even think I want to go do this thing tomorrow. Whatever, let me just go do it. Even though in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I probably should really I just need to rest. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to go do it. So I went to work that day. And I should have known something was interesting was happening because I was really tired and I was really hungry. So as soon as I had the chance to sit down, I sat down. And of course, people see pregnant me. Everybody's bringing me all this food and everything. So I was just like eating the whole day. So I got home. I was like, cool, I can rest. So went ahead, rested, went to sleep. And around midnight-ish is when I was like, something seems strange. Are these Braxton Hicks? I don't know. Let me get out of the bed. So I'm out of the bed on the floor. I'm on all fours. I'm like, okay, this is comfortable. I'm just going to stay right here real quick. Pop, water. Oh.
Had that cervix softened.
Anyway, I was like, my water broke. So I said, Travis. I said, my water just broke. You would have thought he was Superman. He almost hit the doggone ceiling the way he jumped out the bed. So, jumped out of the bed. Okay, cool. Now, at this point, I was smart. Not diaper bag, but my hospital bag was packed. So, he was like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I want to give TJ a chance to sleep a little bit more. So, maybe I'll just wait a little bit. But at this point, I had never had a natural birth. I have no idea how long it's going to take me to progress. And my water had already broken. So I think I was I timing my contractions at that point? I think I was timing them.
I think you started timing them, but I remember after you told me, maybe I'll just wait a little bit. I was like, I don't think that's the best idea.
I listened to Travis that day. We ended up having to wake TJ up, which I felt super bad about because, again, at this point, it's like 1 something. So we had to wake him up, get him together. And Travis had actually called. I think he called his parents' house, and his mom picked up. Thankfully, they hadn't even gone to sleep yet. Praise the Lord. So
I don't know how could they be.
That was Jesus, okay? Because she was like, we haven't even gone to sleep yet. We still up. He was like, cool, okay? Monay is in labor. So we met them at the hospital, and we handed them TJ. We handed off TJ, and we went in. So we got admitted. Everything was fine. At this point, it's around 2-something in the morning. And at this particular hospital, they did allow me to labor in the water, which was a little bit helpful. So I was going back and forth in between the water and the bed, because if I wasn't in the water, then I had to be in the bed and I had to have the fetal monitor strapped on, which was not my first choice, but hey, whatever. We're doing this natural. I'm gonna get this. I'm rocking it. So, time's going on. And
this room was peaceful.
Oh my gosh. The room was peaceful. The nurses were amazing.
They had like soft music playing and whatnot.
Everybody was listening. The lights were dim.
Even when they spoke to you, it was like
I care.
Okay, Monay, I understand.
You're important.
And I know you don't like this fetal monitor, but we have to have it. It's required for us. And you were like, okay.
Bedside manner is so huge to me, and just the little things they would say, I know, sweetheart, I know, but honey, we got to keep it on. I was like, okay. And it was so uncomfortable, but labor after your water breaks, that's when it gets real. So the whole time I'm laboring, my water is broken. So it was just intense the whole time for me. And let me see. I think at one point I was like, well, is there anything you can give me that doesn't require you sticking a needle in my back? And so they ended up bringing me some laughing gas, quote unquote. Didn't make me laugh. Didn't even really help. So I just kind of pushed it to the side because it didn't seem very helpful for me at all. So I went and got back in the water. And at some point, from walking back from the tub to the bed is when transitional labor hit me. Now, what transitional labor is, that is what people probably describe as the I feel like I'm dying thing. Because I stopped midway to the bed and just let out the most blood-curdling scream at the top of my lungs. And it caught me off guard. And so I looked at the midwife.
And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck?
I didn't, it just like, it overtook me. Like, I didn't even know I would make that noise. So I looked at the midwife. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She said, honey, you're the only one laboring on this floor with no pain meds. You're fine. Because I kept feeling like I needed to, I skipped the part. Before I got out of the water that particular time, I said, Travis, you need to go get the midwives because I feel like I need to push. And then when he came back, he said, all right, they said, go ahead and get out the tub, but don't push while you're in the water. Cool. So that's when I got out and I was walking towards the bed, and that's when I let out the scream.
No, that's just because they literally aren't allowed to do water births at that hospital. Right.
Yeah. You can labor in the water, but you can't birth in the water. So I get in the bed, and I don't remember what the time frame was. I think they checked my cervix, and I don't think I was at 10 yet. I might have been at like an 8. So waited a few more minutes, and then at that point, she was like, oh, okay, you're at a 9. A few more minutes. Oh, okay, you're at a 10. So I think between the time where I first started pushing to the time that Atara was born was less than a 5-minute window. So they immediately put her on my chest. And it was great. It was amazing. That was a very beautiful, tranquil, calm, peaceful experience. Nothing at all like the experience I had with TJ. I want to say they moved us from that room to another room. So at this point, it's Sunday morning she was born at 7:02, I believe. So I was, first noticed I was in labor at midnight-ish, and then she was born at 7:02. So I wasn't even in labor for 8 hours, I don't think. So we were there from Sunday morning until Monday morning, I think. Or did they kick us out Sunday?
Oh, we were there Monday.
Okay, yeah. They kicked us out. I think we left around noon-ish on Monday. And it was great. I mean, giving birth naturally versus the C-section, I was actually up walking and not in pain. With the C-section, if you cough, if you laugh, if you try to turn over, if you sneeze, you try to sit up, everything hurts. It just was painful. This, I was literally up, relaxing. They brought TJ, his grandparents brought him up to the hospital. He was able to meet his sister. It wasn't cold and flu season, so, Atara was born in September. So, you know, we had friends coming up and it just felt different. Like being around all of those people was not as overwhelming for me as it was when I first had TJ. Like that was just, I don't know. But second time around, completely fine with Atara. The follow-up went fine. Everything was good. I don't think postpartum hit me like it did after I had TJ. Because at that point, so she was born September 2019. And then we had moved to Charlotte, I think, right before she turned 3 months old. So in that window of time, you know, I didn't go back to work. So I was done working and I was at home and I was able to spend time with her. Unlike with TJ, I took 11 weeks off and had to go back to work. So being able to be with her and not have to, you know, worry about work or, you know, my caseload or anything like that, I think was really helpful in my postpartum journey. So yeah, those two experiences were definitely night and day. If anybody is pregnant and considering or thinking about a VBAC or wanting to do a natural birth, I suggest that you explore it. Don't discount the opportunity or the chance to do it. I would definitely recommend it if you can. And so I think that pretty much sums up Atara's birth. I don't think I'm leaving anything out. I will say that at that particular hospital, the nurses, they were just amazing. And a lot of times people will kind of forget nurses and they all hype up the doctors and whatnot. But those nurses were certified nurse midwives. They were absolutely phenomenal, amazing. I can't sing their praises enough. If we were still in Michigan and we had another kid, I would definitely go back to that hospital because they were amazing. So I think, guys, we're probably going to just wait to explain to you how our third birth went, which was completely different than the first two. So sit tight and we will be back to continue the birth story.
Yeah.
So be easy.
The golden birth.
Yeah.